Hi.
So nice to see you here.
Lovely to see you. In the 60s.
Actually, your mom and I were the only two people who saw at that moment. At capital goods manufacturer Thermax, Meher Padamji is just as upset with the government, but is quickly changing her production plans to suit demand from other countries. A sliding rupee is an opportunity for exports of boilers, chillers and large machinery. Domestic demand has dropped sharply as order books are down 25% since last year. She points out that India has allowed China the edge in the capital goods sector and that the government is just not speeding up large projects. What's making things worse is that India's power sector is in a mess, making it the single biggest issue for manufacturing today. We're here at the factory floor with Meher Padamji of Thermax at a time when the infrastructure story is being questioned. How are you managing to pump out boilers, chillers on every single day basis?
It is a tough time. I think the capital goods sector on the whole is going through a very tough cycle at the moment. And of course with the rupee depreciating, imports are becoming more and more expensive.
Exactly.
And we do use imported material to produce our products. With oil prices and the rupee depreciating, we find there's a double whammy in terms of inflationary pressures on all input costs.
True.
You know, so margins
are willing to be understanding of that, because clearly while you always have the margin squeeze,
right,
you also have the option of passing it on to your client, right?
No, I don't think that option exists really because there's tough competition everywhere.
Okay.
And I think when the market is shrinking, everybody is vying for a smaller pie.
Give me a sense of the kind of shrinkage you've seen in the, let's say, last 18 months.
We can take shelter or we can take cover under the global crisis.
Yeah.
But honestly and truly speaking, I think India is going through its own woes because of ourselves.
Yeah.
I think the global crisis can go on, but we have a huge opportunity because we have a huge domestic market.
And a huge infrastructure deficit of our own.
And a huge infrastructure deficit.
Yeah.
But look at the power sector, for example. I mean, today, we still have 400 million people without electricity. Tamil Nadu today has a 20 to 25% deficit.
Yeah.
Maharashtra has a deficit. A lot of states have a deficit. And yet, look at the way we are in terms of our fuel supply. We just don't have enough coal, or we just don't have the policies for coal to be supplied to our power plants.
True.
We are actually importing 30% of our coal, which is ridiculous.
That's right.
Because India is the fourth largest producer of coal.
So the immediate challenges that lie, how do you get your team charged up to fix those?
It's a mindset. Yeah. So let's come into the boardroom with a positive mindset. Because
Knowing
if we are all
everything is scarce.
exactly.
Yeah.
If we are all going to come in there with a gloomy picture, it's not going to help the situation. And just talking about our own company, Thermax went through a tough time in 99-2000. So I think from bottom up, top down, there is a we can, we must, we will approach.
Yeah.
You know, so how do we look at it differently? So I think if we look at maybe the rupee depreciating, it's a huge challenge for import, but it's a huge opportunity for export. So can we look at the export market?
Yeah.
One can't look at it overnight. Of course, we have been 20% of our turnover does come from export, but we're looking how do we enhance that further. So that's a big opportunity because the rupee has depreciated almost 25% in the last 1 year.
Yeah.
So that's a great opportunity.
When there is a slowdown, yes, there's a desire to think out of the box, and therefore you may accept what would be alternate measures of, cooling or heating and so on.
Right.
But in a slowdown, people also want to go for the cheapest option. Now, some of these sustainable options are not necessarily inexpensive.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. The payback is a lot longer, but that's where companies like us need to come, and that's what we're focusing on. How do we really reduce the cost in order to make it economically viable for the customer? Sometimes how do we get government support, for these kind of things, because it's going to affect the environment long term.
Do you think that part of being a slowdown survivor today is really to then explore a larger market of sustainable energy and sustainable capital goods than just always remain what is really thermal focused in a country like India?
See, India, I think, will always be predominantly thermal focused because we're gifted with so much coal.
Yeah.
So, but how do we use coal much more efficiently? So supercritical technology, ultra supercritical technology is what's coming into the country, which is great.
So you're optimistic, I can see for sure. But you do realize that things are tough in the short term.
Very tough. I'll give you an example. You know, in our kind of industry, order backlog is something that's very important.
Yes.
This year, our order backlog is 25% lower than last year.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of it is to do with power. So the larger boilers that go into the power sector. So we have to obviously try and get this going so that we can
fill the gap somewhere.
Yeah, so that we can have more orders. So that, and the opportunity is huge. You know what really disappoints and frustrates people at large is the fact that there's such a huge opportunity and we're just letting go of that opportunity.
Really interesting points that Meher made right here, which is one, we've got the opportunity, we've got the capacity. Mr. Finance Minister, do something with the reforms, and that is the message even from factory floors out there to the center, that it's time for change that can really spur India's manufacturing sector from where it is today to where it really can be. We'll be catching up with you on another episode of Surviving the Slowdown next week, same time here on ET Now. Thanks for joining us.